Heard you say that you believe that what psychedelics do is make the mind more fertile for these experiences. Is that a good way to...
Yes, that's exactly what I think. I think you're at that level where the ego's control has dissolved to some degree. And so it's like fertile ground. And so if you've, pre-trained, or if you're ready for a mystical experience, you're more likely to have it in that experience, in that state of mind.
So the mind is actually restricting us in many ways through the ego from having these experiences.
Yes, I think so.
And what psychedelics do is release those boundaries.
Yes. I think that due to the evolution of man, Homo sapiens, and taking the upright position, this is a theory I was introduced to in 1966, and actually I think a lot of the details are probably wrong, but in concept I think is true, which is the ape standing upright. One thing people haven't taken into account is obviously there are hundreds of acids of standing upright. You free your hands, you run faster, you see further, all of that. But in the upright position, gravity is against the blood in the brain. Because in the brain there are two fluid volumes, blood and cerebral spinal fluid, which is water, basically, which is made in the brain itself. So it has kind of squatter's rights in the brain. So when you're in the upright position, gravity is pulling the blood down. So I think probably with the upright position, we lost a small proportion of our blood supply. I mean, some animals, if you tie them upright, a dog, for instance, if it's tied up so it can't get down, it will start howling and go mad because it hasn't got the valves to keep the blood up. And we've obviously got a certain amount, but maybe we lost some blood at that upright position. And as a compensation for that loss, I think we developed an internal mechanism more than any other animal has done it, which is to direct the blood where it most needs to go. Obviously, all animals do that. They have the power to send the blood where it's most important to survival or whatever. And I think that through the use of the conditioned sound, the word, we learned to control that process more than any other animal. And over the millennia, we kind of built up our power to do that. So I think that's the secret of why humans, which is just a talking ape, got control of the whole game because of our creation of language, which enabled us to do all these incredible things we do.
Yes.
But it also has a disadvantage that our basic state is slightly low in blood in the dominant organ. So we have to keep this mechanism of tight control where the blood is distributed. And that is evolved with the ego, which is essential. I mean, we wouldn't survive without the ego to kind of direct the blood where it's most needed. People who lose their ego, and in the 60s when people took large doses of LSD, as it was then, every day, sometimes they lost their ego, they flipped out. And there was one occasion of someone we knew who was in Ibiza, and he'd flipped out and he put the key in the lock to open the door. Someone would say goodnight to him. He put the key in the lock and left him. And then in the morning he was still there with the key in the door because the head hadn't told him, turn the key to open the door. So we need the words to keep us,
Yes.
under control.
Yeah.
So the words have made us what we are, this incredible animal who can, have a nuclear war if we want, or know all the atoms in the body, all of those brilliant things we do, which is amazing. But we're also obviously a very deeply faulted animal at some point. We're, neurotic, psychotic, psychotic, all of those things because of this shortage of blood, and then the dependent on the meaning of the word. So if we have a terrible conditioning, which a lot of people do,
Yes.
The separation from reality is, in a sense, in the meaning of the word. So the danger of our society now, in a sense, is we're getting further and further away from nature, in a sense. And that, in a way, is why psychedelics can be a very useful medicine, because they increase the connectivity with the senses, with the internal bodily senses and also the outside perceptual senses. So I actually think that we're entering a kind of new possible age, and that's why for fun I call it the psychedelic age, because for the first time we've got, or getting, the knowledge by which we can actually understand the brain better and understand how we can alter the volume of blood in the brain, which is giving the brain energy. The whole thing is about energy. The more energy we have, the more parts of the brain can function simultaneously. And that obviously can be very creative, stimulating, empathic, by just having more of the brain functioning. And so I think that the knowledge of psychedelics, and when we say psychedelics, I don't actually mean necessarily psychedelics, because as we all know, one can get these experiences endogenously through exercise or holotropic breathing, exactly, or breathing exercise, and all the spiritual training all knew that. That's what they were doing in the spiritual disciplines, is teaching people how to control their internal ego and also their sense of consciousness. And I think at the center of the spiritual experience is the getting higher and loosening the grip of the ego, so you're more in touch with nature.
I think that in the absence of these psychedelic experiences, one of the problems with words is that we develop narratives, and then we use our ego to reinforce these narratives, and we sort of deny objective reality.
Yes. I think more and more the word can become the reality. I mean, in the creation of words, which we all have and have to have and are thankful to have, but nevertheless it does create a slightly different world. It's rather like the shadows on Plato's wall. One gets one's internal edition of the world rather than the real experience of the world. And so I think it's good to be in contact with nature, and I think it's a dangerous path that we're taking now, where it becomes more and more life is the screen. But still, that's where we're going.
Yeah.
And it has great advantages as well as dangers, kind of thing. But I do think that the knowledge of getting high has always been central to the human evolution. And at the earliest demonstrations of what we've got, of the earliest demonstrations of human culture, say the caves in Chauvet. Do you know them?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which I think they've never been bettered. I mean, that artwork, the brushstrokes of those animals, they're alive. You can see the movement. No one ever did it better.
And it's like 30-something thousand years old?
Exactly, 35, 40, something around there.
Wow.
So I can tell, because I am, in some respects, an artist, I know those strokes.
Let's see, pull up some of those images, Jamie, because some of those images are, here we go.
Yeah.
Amazing stuff.
They're just incredible, aren't they?
Yeah.
The movement of the animals,
How they caught,
the feeling.
Yeah. They did create a feeling of movement, like the animals were running.
Yeah, and the lines, I mean, anyone who paints, I mean, Picasso, I think, said without them he would have never done what he did. Or I can't remember quite, but modern art isn't better. It gets as good, but not really.
It's crazy because they're depicting rhinos, too. Which is really wild. There was rhinos in France.
Yeah, beautiful ones of horses and buffaloes. And, and that's in the bowels of the earth they do it. So it was obviously a very spiritual, because why go into the bowels of the earth if it's just a kind of magical, spiritual experience they're having?
Yeah.
And so I think without doubt they were high. How they got there? Was it through singing, drumming, or singing, or was it through taking compounds? Funny enough, I've recently been introduced to a charming man who's an archaeologist in charge of Chauvet. And I said, I'd love to be able to analyse and see if we can find out if there's any remnants of some psychoactive substance. And he said I was very welcome to go there. So I'm very excited about the possibility.